I should say, what? Phew. Hey? Say what? Hello, everybody. It's another week. Can you believe it? I'm what's left of Russ Kane. It is Monday, the something or other. Some months, doesn't matter. Every day's the same. Who the hell cares? And this is the Daily Show on Men's radio station. I think I've had too many coffees this morning. I'll be absolutely honest. I think I've had too many coffees this morning. Well, that was a pretty dull weekend. And moving on. Now, what have we got? Comments coming in, loads of co-hosts, loads of guests. I don't want to go and do the Edinburgh Fringe. Let's start away. Big time, styly. Look at that. Good morning from New York. Hey, from New York. And Facebook user, you got to set the, I don't know who that is, but hello. There you are. Right. Now. This is what happens when you don't sleep for months. Tell you what. Now, gang, big week ahead. But I didn't want one guest co-host. No, not enough. I want two of the finest co-hosts. She's wonderful. She's been my pal since 1984. The other one's gone. He's running. The other one's running. Interesting way, Neil, to hand in your resignation, I think you'll find. Right, she is, of course, lovely Meza.
Good morning.
Where are you? Why come you're in the south of France or something there? What's going on there?
I'm in my house.
Wow.
Which is very, very sunny.
Beautiful. And that is in Nice. Is it in Nice or Cap Ferrat? I can't remember. Is it Stanmore?
It's slightly north of Nice.
Slightly.
North of Nice.
You would think that just having Lesley de Meza would be like spraying the most wonderful perfume onto you. But no, not enough. I think to balance, he is, you know him, you love him. It's only Neil Long.
Greetings, Lesley, hello.
Good morning, Neil. Hello.
Greetings and good morning. How are you?
No, you two never worked at Capital at the same time, though, did you? Lesley,
Did
you'd
you work,
gone.
did you work at Capital?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, that's where I met Russ.
That's how we were such good friends from 1984 onwards. Lesley de Meza, the legend.
Good to meet
the
you
legend.
All these years later.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Never lost.
And you, Neil.
We've never lost touch. Lesley and I have never lost touch. There was a gang who were all behind the scenes, not presenters, just fantastic people, including Sophie, who did quite well becoming the Countess of Wessex. And she was a sweetheart. Did you ever meet her, Neil? Were you there when she was around?
I think so.
Sophie Rhys-Jones? Everyone thinks she was posh. She wasn't posh at all. And she was funny as hell and such a laugh.
Remember her.
Yeah? Yes. She was in marketing or press department? Which was she in?
Press.
She was in the press office.
Yeah.
And they went quite well. I mean, talk about, it was a complete, timeless Tim Hayman. I'll be with you in a minute. I really will. But I will be in a sec. Got somebody special to talk to us. It was a petri dish of such talent because the press office, there were two guys called Mike Whitehill and Steve Knight. Okay. They went on to write everything for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, along with David Briggs, who was at Capital Radio. That was all at Capital Radio. Everything was part of what they called the Bong Game, the most successful TV quiz show in the history of television, by our chum David Briggs, who we're still in touch with and still see. And then Steve Knight is now one of the top Hollywood scriptwriters in the world. Wow. In the world. His work is incredible. He's made some, my head is like a pizza today, but he's done some amazing movies and he's a really big deal. All came from the press office at Capital. There was only 4 people in it. Sophie Rhys-Jones went on to marry Prince Edward and became the Duchess. What is she? The Countess of Wessex?
Countess.
Which is great. Do you know, I met her after she'd become the Countess of Wessex with some posh dude. And I thought, I'm going to, you know what, I'm like, chance I'll go over and say hello. What's the worst that's going to happen? I get shot, right? Which would be a mercy at the moment. And I walked over, and of course, all the bodyguards And she just looked at me and said, Russ, you reprobate, and came over and gave me a big hug, which was sweet.
I do remember her now, actually. I remember the name now.
Sweetheart. Right.
Yeah.
Now, so thank you both. You're always so welcome. You know, people love it when you're on the show. I'm looking at the numbers and they're loving it. Right. This guy, you know, I hang out at the Soho Whiskey Club, which sounds very grand, but it's actually just a room above a shop. But it's called the Soho Whiskey Club, and it's fantastic. 600 open bottles of whiskey, and they'll open whatever you want as well. 600 of everything. It's just sensational, just sensational. I'll get on to all your comments in a sec, but I don't want to keep our lovely guests waiting. Anyway, we did a fund out of the blue. George Mickey, who is the young guy who runs everything, did a fundraiser for Ukraine. Now, we're only just blokes sitting there in like leather jackets and jeans as per usual. You know, it's all very cash. And that night raised 28 grand. And
Wow.
George arranged the whole thing in like 3 days. We just thought, oh, Sonny, we'll come. We'll just go, you know, because we're all pals. And it's one of those places you walk in and everyone knows, you know, it's like Cheers, you know.
Yeah.
You can talk to anyone. This guy, who I've seen play before, got up. He said, I've written a song a couple of days ago. Just absolutely gutted us. It was magnificent. He is Tim Hain. Tim, how are you?
Fine, thank you. And I've only had half a cup of coffee today.
Well, play catch up, man. Play catch up. So Tim, in front of everybody, picks up his guitar. I've heard him play before. He's fantastic. And I thought, and he says, I've written a song about Ukraine. And I'll be honest, my heart sank. I thought, oh, Jesus, no, please. Because you know it's going to be terrible.
I know
it was fantastic. It was fantastic. You know, you've done a video. If I was clever, I'd be able to show the video. I haven't the faintest idea at the moment how to get the video, download it, and then broadcast it out. I don't know. But I can see you got an axe next to you.
Oh, right.
Could you do it? I'm putting you on the spot. If you don't want to do it, don't. I don't mind. And I'll work out.
Well,
I'll get hold of Phil Dane at some point. That is the fanciest chair anyone's ever had. Have you heard this song, Lesley?
What, darling?
Lally, have you heard this song?
Lally, it's Lely.
It's Lally.
No, I have not heard this song.
Well, Tim, if you can do this is, and explain it. Normally I don't have music, but this song is just, if you can watch the video, gang, it's on YouTube. His name, as you can see, is Tim Hain. If you're listening on Deluxe Radio, hi everybody, it's Tim, and then Hain is spelled Hain. I'm putting you on the spot, Tim. I don't want to be rude. I'd never do that.
That's all right. I'm kind of used to it. I've had a lot of practice at being put on the spot since I was about 3 years old. So.
Not as much as Neil. No, I've been put on the spot. Okay, tell us the background before you play it, because it's just like, oh my goodness.
Well, I think we all know the background, but specifically for me, I was flicking the news. I don't like to get it all from one source these days. I think it was on Sky. There was an interview with a young mother on a train with her daughter. This would have been about a month, 3 or 4 weeks ago. And the story about how, you know, the conductor locked the doors because there was simply no more room for people to get on the train when they pulled into the station. And it really moved me to write this song. So then I think Russ was one of my guinea pigs that night because he was among the first people ever to hear the song. And the response was very warm. So I set about recording a version. I set about recording a version, trying to keep the basic. I don't actually have the guitar I wrote it on. It's a really old guitar. It's my couch guitar, an old classical gut string guitar, you know, with old strings. But I specifically used that song on the recording, adding only a very simple drum part, some bass, a bit of lead, and this wonderful young girl singer who is local to me, Billy, and she was still learning the song when she came into the studio.
She's great.
She's great. And then a chap called Chris Kimsey came on board. Chris Kimsey was a chap who not only produced 2 of my favorite reggae albums of all time, but casually remarked when I mentioned that to him that he also produced 7 albums for the Rolling Stones. So
nobody big then. No one big.
No one big. So he then mixed the track, mixed and mastered the track, and is hugely enthusiastic. He's kind of sending it to friends of his and stuff, and seeing what traction we might gain with it. And most important, I wanted to say is I've got I set up a Just Giving page. I think it was last Thursday or Friday.
Oh, okay.
And that's already got about 420 quid over the weekend. So it's a nice start.
Beautiful.
Brilliant.
I just basically go on Facebook and send personal messages to people. Seems to be the best way. Just make a list and go down the list. And that's kind of where we are. So it's the Just Giving page, Just Giving Children of Ukraine, or Tim Haynes Children of Ukraine. I wish I had a poster I could, or maybe I'll write it out and hold it up in a few minutes or something. People have the link.
The sophistication of men's radio station, ladies and gentlemen.
It's wonderful. We live in a high-tech world, Russ.
Of course we do. Of course we do. If you can't write it on the back of an envelope, don't bother. That's what I say.
Good that we've mastered it.
Let's hear this tune. Come on, fella.
Mm.
Honestly, it moved. That you could have heard a pin drop when you played it. We had you on the show before because I was so moved. We had you a couple of days after I've heard it, and I really wanted you back.
Well, it's early in the day. I've had a grueling weekend, so I hope I can remember the words. Half of me is in Kiev. Half of me on a train with my daughter, running from tanks and bombs. Daddy stays to fight the oppressor. This train rumbles into one more station with I'm trying to get on board, but this train is rammed with refugees. The conductor won't open the doors, and there's no more room on this train. No more room for no more pain. And the world is watching, weeping for the children of Ukraine. Fear and anger is all I can feel. I didn't want to leave. Homemade husband, father and mother, not knowing how we'll be received when we step off this train to anywhere. People still matter and people still care, with only the bags that we carry in our hands, running from a sovereign land. And there's no more room on this train. No more room for no more pain. And the world is weeping for the children of Ukraine. Then Billy's verse. Goodbye, beloved country. Will I ever see you again? Will I ever embrace family and friends? Caught in that place where the bombs still rain, and meanwhile he sits safe in his Siberia, frozen out by the rest of the world. The devil unleashes the forces of darkness, no mercy on the innocent. And there's no more room on this train. No more room for no more pain. And the world is watching, world is weeping, world is praying. just keep praying, yeah, for the children of Ukraine. Something like that.
Ooh, not a dry eye in the house. Not a dry eye in the house.
Brilliant. I often wonder what that magic is, just to be able to spontaneously write a song like that. I've always wondered about that. That reminded me.
How does he do it? How do you do it? Honestly,
that reminded me of a bit of Jack Savaretti and a bit of Soul Asylum. And that's a great compliment.
Savaretti.
Thank you.
Here you are. I'm putting up the link because I'm not quite as smart as I want to be. That's JJ Fox. You don't want that.
That's amazing.
That's my cigar link.
Oh.
Lesley, what do you think? Oh.
I can't see myself anymore. I'm frozen.
You are
on screen.
Oh, let it go.
Yeah, but
when your
shut up.
Let it go, the Meza. Come on.
Thank you, darling. I would love to let it go. The interesting thing about that song and so much that's gone on, it touches stuff that I think Russ will understand about crammed trains full of refugees. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, just when things are lovely and things are in a beautiful mood and Tim has poured his heart out, this bitch comes on. This is like the last of the summer wine reunion. I said it.
Oh,
Timmy, you are.
He's such a.
He's such a bitch. He's so. Hang on, which one am I? If that's true.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm the ones who've all died from the cast.
Am I Nora Batty? Oh my God.
Do you know what? I tell you what. Lesley, go off, if you'll forgive the expression, and rejoin because you're frozen for some whatever reason it is. Do that.
Okay. If I knew how to go off, I would, darling. I would go off.
So, Tim, how are you pushing this? How are you pushing the song? And then I must let you go.
I think with no rush. Just with serendipity, really. I mean, obviously, I don't have any connections in the music business. And say, oh yeah, we'll get you airplay and this, that, and the other. So basically, I'm focusing mainly on the Just Giving page, just using it to raise money and seeing what comes from there. I've been given a list of bloggers and radio stations, and I'm just waiting it to go live on CD Baby so I can send them the official link. That'll be in a few days, and then I'll just go down this list and see if anyone get any radio play.
I'll put it in front of the Radio Jackie management by all means. I don't know what they say, but I'll be more than happy to present it to them.
Brilliant, Neil. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, Russ has got my email address. If you send me a copy, Tim, that'd be brilliant. I loved it. Really, really good, mate.
And also reach out to my good chum, Mr. David Wimble, who runs Deluxe Radio, which we're on. About 60,000, about 60 to 70,000 people listen.
David Wimble.
David Wimble, like Wimble without the Don. Wimble. David Wimble at Deluxe Radio. No, nobody's there.
Deluxeradio.com.
Oh, you'll find it.
Yeah.
I don't know what the rest of it is. It can only be one Deluxe Radio. Right. And and David Wimble has said, "Yep, happy to play." He's come straight back on the thing. There you go. That's how the magic. That's how the magic of media works.
I'll send him an MP4 or an MP3.
Okay. Yeah, and if you could send me an M5 competition and a DB5, that'd be great. They're cars, by the way.
Will a 1974 E-Type V12 do?
As long as it's not the 2+2. I only want the Roadster or the normal. I don't want the 2+2 with the extra large windscreen. I don't like it.
It's a lightweight and it lapped good within 1 minute 32 seconds.
That'll do. Thank you very much. Thanks. No, God, you're a pal. And Neil wants a Ford Anglia 1965. Right. Where is Leslie's gone? She's having trouble. Right. Do you need to go, Tim, or you can hang about?
It's up to you. I've got
no. It's up to you. If you want to hang out and be with the gang. Okay. If you've got the world to save, off you go. I don't mind.
I've got to phone a bass player back who's playing with me at the Here We Go plug Hampstead Jazz Club on the 7th of May, Saturday. So I'm going to call him back. But otherwise, I'm happy to hang with you guys.
Have you ever seen a bass player? Listen to this. And if you most people play bass and they think it sounds like AC/DC, which is about 2 notes. I love AC/DC, by the way, but it's not technically too difficult, apart from Angus, who's brilliant. Now, there's a young guy, not everyone's young to me, but he looks young. His name is Charles. I don't know him, no connection with him, in case you think I'm managing him or something. Charles Berthoud. He's an English guy. Berthoud. Charles Berthoud. Is an English kid, now lives in, I think he lives in Boston because he got a scholarship. I have never, it's like hearing the bass guitar for the very first time. You've never heard anything. If you think Marcus Miller's a good player, this guy is anyway. Neil, you have, and apparently, look at the way I'm going to casually segue this. Complete disaster. You said funny story, which I could do with. I'll be honest with you. Funny weekend story.
Do you want a funny
Let's lift everyone's spirits.
We have some new neighbours next door. Amit.
That's it?
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. That was it.
Neil, you're great.
Anyway, and Amit and Sangeeta, Indian couple, Hindu couple, right? And they gave me an opportunity to go and see. I think it's called Annaprashana, which is a ceremony for when the newborn goes onto solid foods for the first time. And they got a little one called Sumir, tiny baby. Okay. And it was a lovely. I've never seen this kind of Hindu ceremony with a priest, wearing the sash and all that sort of thing before. And you can imagine that, the bowls, heating things in the bowls and spices and flowers. You can just imagine it and sort of all sitting in a circle watching it. I've never seen anything like it before. But the contrast of ancient and modern and Indian and English, it all kind of clashed in this delicious way because the priest was sitting there and he puts this ghee, which is the butter that they cook with the Indians, I'm sure you can buy in Tesco's, and herbs and stuff in this metal bowl, right? And then starts heating it up. And he's doing all the profound stuff, Om and R and Lord Krishna and all this sort of thing, wearing all the sash and, communing with the ancestors, offering their blessings, and then turns around in a North London accent and says to the guy whose party it is, he said, and by the way, don't touch it, blimmin' hot, health and safety. But and this contrast of cultures and ancient and modernity came slamming together, and I thought, oh God, that's fantastic. That is priceless. Really, really good.
But the beauty about that is you felt welcome, and it's a lovely thing.
And then I DJ'd them a Bollywood party afterwards by putting a speaker in my back garden because they're only there next door and playing it rather loudly.
Did they know you were going to do that, or you just decided to do that?
Yeah. And we did it online as well because we could do virtual parties now as well. So
you could have phoned Tim. Tim could have been there.
Mate.
Now let's go through some of the comments. Paul Rose. I've never understood the butter in Indian cookery. They clarified it for me.
Oh, Paul, seriously? Don't stand in the corner, man. Out.
Robert Van Buren. By the way, he's a top Swedish DJ, Tim. Top. Like 50,000 people in they were doing that. Robert Van Buren. Hi, Russ. He's a clockmaker.
Hi, Rob.
Okay. Right. Then we've got. I agree with this. This is why I like to lighten the mood every now and then. We've got some heavy stuff. Then I really want to get into a very difficult conversation. Paul Claridge, we all need a funny story. Damn right we do. Now, Paul, Tim, this is aimed at you. This is from Veronica Curran up in Edinburgh. I'm going to read it out for all our pals on Deluxe Radio. All 70,000 of you listening at the moment. Fantastic. Thanks, Wimble. It was even better than I remembered from the first time you played it on here. Timmy, our guy, is getting ready for, not Timmy Alexis Carrington Ward, who's getting ready to shave his legs. Our guy is getting ready for third supplies. You see, I'm joking. Run over to Ukraine. Amazing what people are doing.
I was speaking to a lovely Ukrainian lady. I mean, how's this for a love story? She studied in the UK in Leeds, and then she went back to Ukraine. And then when all this started, but she had a boyfriend in Manchester. And do you know he went and got her and brought her over the border and brought her safe to Manchester. I'm doing a virtual party for her. She's calling it birth because Ukraine was going to be 30 years independent, and so is she. 30, and she's doing something called Birthdays for Ukraine. And we're at the moment putting, a load of fundraising stuff together, and we're just going to go online. And I know it sounds odd, but virtual parties do work, and you can go online, and we're going to raise a ton of money for Ukraine on that night.
I've no idea how they work. How do they work? Do you get drunk on your own, and then you cop off with someone that you can't actually see because you chat them up? And yet 50,000 other people see you.
I do have another funny story, but this is about men's mental health. And this is at a time when my mental health was actually not that good. So doing crazy things actually improved it. But
me too.
It's a bit of a long story, but it all started over lockdown where I started doing.
Well, I got plans for Christmas. Otherwise, go ahead.
I won't tell long. But I started doing virtual parties for a joke, and it really just caught on. And for a joke, this is before on Radio Jackie, my radio wife made a disparaging comment about my love life and said I needed something inflatable and a puncture repair kit. So a listener sent in an inflatable doll called Helga de Bleu, and I put it away in the cupboard. And then over lockdown, got it out and put it in the background. That led to people leaving them on my doorstep in the middle of lockdown, right? So right in the middle of lockdown, they were using their one daily walk to deliver fake inflatable dolls and leave them on my doorstep here in Leafy, New Malden. So if the police had bust in when it was like 10 grand for doing an illegal party, they would have found a lone DJ with a family of inflatable dolls.
And there's the story for your soaraway son, ladies and gentlemen. That's how reputations get trashed.
If you want more funny stuff, before we do something serious, I've been having more fun with scammers. I'm having great fun with this one called Fazza at the moment, and I'll fill you in on that if you like.
Yeah, we hate scammers, and they drive us mad. So they're bad for our mental health. That's how I can justify it. You go ahead, Longy.
All right. Well, this one tells me he's from the royal family. Okay. So I said, "What can I do for you, Your Royal Highness?" And then he sent me this kind of copy and paste 20-point thing, and saying I'm praying to find the right woman for me. So obviously he doesn't even know my gender because they're not very observant scammers. But then he said, "But there's a fake Fazza. There's a fake Fazza impersonating me on Instagram and all the other platforms. But I'm the real Fazza, and I'm going to prove it." And then sends me that, which is obviously really, really convincing. And
I'm convinced, but then I'm stupid.
Right. And then, but Fazza kept on calling me dear. Okay. Dear. All right, dear. All right, dear. As a lot of scammers do, it's a bit of a red flag. So he's like, "I'm the real Fazza." So I sent him this.
What does it say? I can't read it. What's it say?
It's a picture of a man with a deer head on saying, "I'm the real deer." Right. And then he starts with
you have to explain it because people are listening as well as watching. So.
Oh yes, I forgot. Sorry. So then it's beautiful pictures. These are beautiful floral gardens. Fit for royalty. That kind of thing. And look. And this is a picture of the royal bedroom, which looks like a real kind of love nest. Right.
Okay.
Except if you look closely, it's got someone else's Instagram tag right there. Like I wouldn't notice that. So I then send a picture back saying, well, this is where I live. And this is a picture of Battersea Power Station. All right. And then I send one final picture. I've lost the picture now.
That's so stupid.
But it's just seeing how much you can get away with because they literally don't notice. So I then sent one final picture before oh yeah, that was it. And then he said, "I think you're scamming me. I'm going to tell my father of you."
Oh, no.
Right. So he's going to tell the royal father of me. So I said, "Well, my father's called Big Bad Biffa Bacon, and he's a bare knuckle cage fighting boxer. And he says, meet you at Croydon Station in half an hour. It's hard enough." All right. And then I sent that back, which is a picture he sent me, except this time it says, "I'm a real scammer." And then I blocked his sorry ass.
Oh, brilliant.
So that was my weekend.
Do you know, sometimes it's so satisfying. Let's get back to Tim. I absolutely adore stuff like that. There's some guys on YouTube. If you hate scammers, there's some American folks who are computer geniuses, and they get the guys who are usually out, I'm sorry to say, usually in India or Pakistan, and they take all the money from their account. It's
or
great.
wreck their data, or destroy their data.
Or do everything. They drive them absolutely.
And get this, the health and safety priest that I just told you about next door, his other job is a cybersecurity expert, and he knows how to do that. It's called reverse IP, and you get in their computer and nickel their data. So Fazza, you've got to watch yourself, mate, because we're coming for you.
And also what they can do is make your camera go live. So when they're saying, "Oh, I'm just a poor person," and you see them in a call center. Yeah. Now, this is lovely. This is for you, Tim. think Tim's dropped off there for a second. Good to see Tim on the show. Big up for his fab charity. So, right.
Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, Paul Endicott asked me to say hello. Sorry, Paul.
Paul, we're a big fan of Paul. I think I met. Where did I meet Paul? I met Paul at Steve Blacknell's Waffle Club, which I don't go to only because I'm not in the music industry, but they're lovely folks, and I just love what Paul does with his tours and everything. If you fancy a tour, sing where the Beatles were, the Rollings. I mean, his rock pop tours are fabulous. Right, this is a big one. So this is from Paul Claridge, who actually does work at East Croydon Station. Kudos, my good friend Michelle, who runs the charity Dogs on the Streets. A bit rude. She sent a van load of supplies and a team of vets and volunteers to the Poland-Ukraine border. Wow, that's good. To assist. Do you want to read this out, Neil?
Yeah, sure. From Paul Claridge, who I just realised I've used East Croydon in my scam baiting. Sorry about that.
Precisely. That's the joke.
I must have thought of you. It must have been an unconscious thing. Big up you.
Right,
Kudos my good friend Michelle that runs the charity Dogs on the Street. I've heard of this. She sent a van load of supplies and a team of vets and volunteers to the Poland-Ukraine border to assist with the evacuation of refugees and their animals. On the same day, her own dog died. And then she got, really? And then got fined for failing to pay the ULEZ toll while dashing to rescue a vulnerable homeless person in London.
Yeah, they're crap. It's just crap. It's just rubbish. And what is the Mayor of London doing with Extinction Rebellion, who are trying to bring the city to a... Where is Phil Dave? Who's writing that?
Oh, that's nice.
Who wrote that?
Charming, lovely.
Who did that? Where is Phil Dave? I fired him. I fired him for being annoying. Who wrote that? And I even can't get it off.
Maybe Linda wrote it.
We've been hacked. It's Fazza.
Hello.
Oh God Almighty!
Hey.
Look who's arrived. Hang on. Look who's arrived. Where is he?
Oh, I'll get my coat then.
You couldn't. No, you won't. You sit down, Neil.
Right, see you later.
Well, you know me.
I
can't help but make a bit of an entrance.
You and I, you are such a drama queen. You and I have all these emails going backwards and forwards. I said, don't worry. Oh, I'm so busy. I said, don't worry. I'll see you later. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I'm so busy. You couldn't resist, could you?
Well,
You couldn't resist. Go on.
Well, what can I sort of pop in and say hello? Sorry.
Well, indeed, you should be. Remind us who you are, caller.
The last 2 weeks has helped me to forget who I am, but anyway.
Has it been, for those of you who think that Phil has just stormed off in a huff doing a Timmy Alexis Carrington Award? No, he's been ridiculously busy.
Is that an Eastern European car? A huff?
A huff, yeah. And if that's not fast enough, go in a minute and a half. Now, what have you been doing? Don't go into the details of the shows, but you've been very busy, right?
Well, I have been somewhat assisting in the launch of a new channel. And so I have been producing a daytime program. Unbelievably enough, the powers that be have let me loose on the daytime schedule. So there you go. So that is what I...
Wow. See, this is what's happened since Brexit. You can't get the stuff. They've all gone. This is it. This is why Phil is rising like cream to the top.
I've scared them off, but anyway.
I think you have. So, Lesley, just engage us with your wonderfulness. What did you do over the weekend that will raise everybody's spirits who's watching all over the world?
Oh, blimey, I've been already.
Nothing. You did nothing, did you? You did nothing.
The garden. I did some stuff in the garden.
You have a pretty garden. It's very, very nice. It's very,
Thank
very nice.
you. Nothing.
Oh, look who's turned up. Oh, your family. You're like the... You're like the... Hey, Phil. Yes, it's your son. That's what I say.
Well, quite.
Precisely. Right.
Robert. I'm going to be quiet now. This is a men-only program.
No, it isn't. It's not a men-only.
I'm on the wrong radio station.
No, we want you. Well, we want you. All right, I'm going to change the tone. Phil, are you with us for a bit, or are you going to dash off? Because I'm going to change the tone. I've got something very serious to talk about. Oh, is he gone? Why is he gone?
No, he's not.
I've forgotten what an irritating arse you are. I really have forgotten.
You know, it's a bit higher and fire around here, dear boy.
Interesting way to hand in your resignation, nonetheless, Phil.
I was
at this stage, I think you'll find.
Lovely, Meza, you're in good company, because I also was pottering about the garden this weekend, which is quite exciting. The weather was nice, right? It was a good time to do it.
Beautiful.
Your mother's got a Broigus. Your mother's got a Broigus. Now look at this. This is what This is what I have to put up with. Jeremy Paxman doesn't. I already said good afternoon at 12 noon.
Oh.
Christ almighty. Now, what do you got? This is for Tim Hain. This is coming in for Tim. This is for you. This is coming in from New York State, not Manhattan. That's where Elizabeth Green's in Manhattan. She's watching and listening. Azadon Brown's in New York State. Sorry. Lesley, would you like to read this out?
Okay. Tim, I serve on the board of a national trauma organization. I've had the opportunity to speak with a couple of Ukrainians, and their personal messages pain the heart. Your song is so timely and so prudent.
Beautiful.
And I think that he's absolutely right. It is.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now, I'm going to, just before I get on to the main thing that I wanted to talk to all of you about, and I'm really, you know, I know we take the mick out of each other, but we are all close in real life. And I trust these guys implicitly, and I'm very flattered that they're part of Men's Radio. I really am. It's always wonderful. And I never take their part, even Phil, yes, I'll say it. I never take their participation for granted whatsoever. It's always a joy to me. Unlike Timmy, Alexis, Carrington Ward, never a joy. I'll be honest with you. It's a pain in the ass. Now, a few weeks ago.
Obviously been getting him on the show incorrectly, but anyway.
Yeah. Now, we've had two guests from Ukraine. One was via David Wimble over at Deluxe Radio, our chums there who stream our show. And we had this lady, Victoria. If you remember the Victoria thing? She's now got out of Ukraine, thank goodness. And she's helping, she's obviously working enough on a project that Wimble and I are working as well. But I'm so glad she got out safely. And then quite separately, I did a long interview, if you may recall, with a Ukrainian farmer. I wonder if you remember that. And I'm going to be really honest. Before all this, I thought Ukraine was about the size of Croydon. Honestly, I had no idea. It is actually the size of Texas. It's freaking huge. It is also, and I didn't know this either, the breadbasket of Europe. Their wheat and their grains production is gigantic. And this is all springing from Tim Hain's brilliant song. So I spoke to this farmer, and I'm thinking, what's he got? Like a tractor, a field? No, of course not. The fact that they can't farm. And he was the first person to say this. And now the media, and I'm not going hooray for us, I didn't know any of this. The conversation could have gone any way, let's be honest. But weeks later, all the media are catching up to this point. And it's a huge point. Because they can't produce crops, machinery destroyed, fields destroyed, people having to run or die. Because they can't produce those crops, those are the main suppliers of wheat and grain to North Africa. North Africa is going to starve. North Africa will starve because they will not be getting those crops. And before any genius, like I would say, why can't they grow their own crops? Have you seen it there? You know, the land, you might as well try and grow it on cement. It's horrendous. So the ramifications of this horrific conflict, well, all conflicts are horrific, but this one particularly seems to have grabbed us by the throat. It's huge because the ramifications for North Africa, and what's going to happen, and Tim, you might have a view on this, because when people are starving, they get very, very restless. They will start to try and migrate. Where they're going to migrate to? They're going to migrate to Europe. One, you can't really blame them. But two, how many millions and millions and millions of people can you take? You're going to wipe out our entire swathe of the population. So this war, and no one had talked about this. Only now in the American media are they talking about the impact on wheat. There you go. And I'll tell you one other thing, and then I'll throw it over to my lovely co-hosts, is this. People will put up with anything until they have no food. And when people have no food, they will resort to any means possible to eat. You will have violence on a scale unprecedented if people can't eat. That's all there is to it. Tim, what do you think?
It just brings to mind that song by Bob Marley when he says, "Them belly full, but we hungry. A hungry mob is an angry mob." That's one thing that comes to mind. But it's just like, it just seems to me that the solutions to the world's problems are very simple. It's the problems themselves that are complicated. And who creates the problems? Is it the planet? No, it's we human beings, which I suppose means the potential is still there within us if we've created the problems to be able to resolve the problems. It's just tapping into that potential. Where do we find it? You know.
And the other thing is what you notice. I only watch American media because I don't really care about other stuff, and that's just me at the moment. And they're talking about the people who are storing all this stuff. Who's storing it all? China. Of course they are. That's 28 steps ahead of everybody else. And you've got this ad, and this is from Dave Sleet of ANA. Dave, I will try and catch up with you. It'd be lovely to see you again. I've just got a heck of a week on. I'd love to see you there. Add sunflower oil production to that list and notice China move on the supply gap. I would just say this, and Phil, I know you feel pretty much the same. While everyone in Britain and everyone, well, let's just say everyone in America, the most powerful Western nation on earth, well, everyone in America is getting their knickers in a twist about pronouns.
Yeah.
And that's taking all their time. Should it be, and all this utter crap. China is just getting on with taking over the world. They're not interested in pronouns. They're interested in, let's just stockpile everything because they're going to need it. And who's going to have it? We are. This is what happens when tiny minorities just grab the megaphone. Phil, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe for a second that we've got all the answers here. But what I would suggest is that it is remarkable how this sort of the primal instinct of man, or person, forgive me if we're being politically correct now, is that of selfishness. Whatever the situation, whatever happens, we're only ever going to put ourselves first. And no amount of pray for Ukraine and no amount of, we need to do this, that, and the other to help Ukrainians. You can do that now because we're in a position where we're not affected by it. But as soon as it sort of starts affecting this country or anything else, I guarantee it will go on the back burner. And to be honest with you, it's already sort of started doing that. You only have to look at some of the headlines today. You actually have to look for some of the newspapers today. Bearing in mind the situation is still not exactly any better. You have to dig deep into those newspapers to find anything on Ukraine now. It's not at the forefront of people's minds anymore. Certainly for a lot of people, they're worried about, understandably, gas and energy prices. If they're worried about that, then guess what? They ain't going to worry about whether or not someone in the Ukraine is running for their life or if someone in Africa is starving. I'm really sorry, but it's kind of the harsh truth.
If you watch any of the American YouTube channels, these are huge. They're getting ratings bigger than some of the networks, right? And they sit there and they say, well, we can't get it. We don't want American boots on the ground. Okay, I get that. They had their arse kicked in Afghanistan. They don't want it again. And they say, anyway, it's the other side of the world. They say, these are what they say. It's the other side of the world, like it's New Zealand. Now, for them, it's irrelevant. And I keep writing to them and say, guys, it's a 2-hour flight for us, or about a 3-minute missile flight, if you want to be more accurate. It's Neil?
Sometimes when things like this come up, the whole problem, and this touches on mental health, becomes completely overwhelming. And we kind of get overwhelmed. It's so big, I can't think about it because there's nothing one person can do. But I think Bon Jovi over lockdown, they did that beautiful song, Do What You Can. And if everyone contributes something within their skill set, like we're doing here, and remains open to possibilities, the minute you think, oh my God, nothing can be done or it's overwhelming, you kind of shut off that creative spark. But sometimes, Einstein said his best ideas came in the shower, and that's when he's not ruminating, just chilled out. And then maybe, just maybe, if enough people got inspired with enough creative ideas at one time collectively, it would certainly, if not solve it, contribute more than going, oh my God, isn't that awful? I can't look at that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. How many of us really go, I can't take this anymore? And you look at it. I got to tell you something, Tim, and I'm going to be really honest. When I watched your fantastic video over on YouTube, right, about children of Ukraine, and you've juxtapositioned your lyrics and the vocals with the most haunting images, and it took everything I had and I don't know why, but I'm just being brutally honest about this, to keep watching because I was getting so upset. It doesn't help anybody. I know me getting upset, utterly pointless, doesn't help anybody. But it's so powerful. If you watch that video, just go onto YouTube, Tim Hain, which is Hain. I'm spelling it out for everyone on Deluxe Radio, and Children of Ukraine. It's a brilliant, simple video.
And it was all filmed on my iPhone, just watching the telly.
Was it?
Yeah, it's just me and I filming the news and then downloading it onto Final Cut.
Okay. I love this, by the way, gang. Mary G. Williams, and it's Good Morning from slightly north of Tennessee. So we've got New York State.
Wow.
Yeehaw! Could you do that? Can you do a bit of no?
Bluegrass. We want bluegrass.
Yeah, we want bluegrass.
Only the green grass, man.
We want bluegrass. We do. Right. Now, what else we got? What have we got here? What is this? This is from, hope you're keeping well. Lovely to catch you live, Russ. This is from Nicole Glazier. Hello, Nicole. There we Nicole, that's all mine.
The rest of us don't matter, but it's lovely to see Russ live. That's the good news.
Well, we never know when we're going to see you again, Philip, do we? Let me ask you all a question. I'm going to ask you all in turn. I had a lunch with my two best pals, safely distanced, I have to say. Even so, we're all still being careful. And then I had my
to Meza. What? I was just saying, I was confirming with lovely Meza. It was a very nice lunch as well, wasn't it?
What you mean, the one we weren't invited to, Phil?
Yeah, you weren't invited.
That would be it. Yeah.
No, you weren't invited to. Neither were you invited to the cigar thing. Now, all of us felt exactly the same. And it's strange. And I've known my two best pals for like God knows how long, right? Since our kids were babies, etc. And we're very open. This is why we don't invite anybody else, it's so that we can just be open. We all feel anxious. We feel our lives have changed to a degree. This is a huge conversation, by the way. I know I'm bringing it in late in the show, but we all felt anxious, and we're all just, as my pal Larry said, I'm just putting one foot in front of the other every day. And these people are really buoyant. They're buoyant characters. How are you feeling, Lesley?
I think I want to say it hasn't affected me. Of course, it has affected me, and it does touch me. You know, Russ, that I do some English tuition with my students, and the poetry that they're studying for GCSE is an anthology called Power and Conflict, and so many of the poems from the First World War and the Second and the Troubles in Ireland so relate to what the people of Ukraine are going through, and the kids that I'm working with are actually, they're scared. Of course they're scared. They thought there was going to be a world war. It's touching them deeply. I'm just using the Ukraine stuff, I suppose, as a window into the poetry they're having to look at. But it is scary. In our lifetime, there hasn't been a world war. There have been other troubles on our doorsteps and stuff that's directly affected London, sure. But this, I don't know, I just get so upset about the fact that ordinary human beings, as opposed to, forgive me, politicians, are pawns in some kind of political chess game.
We mean nothing. Neil?
I was watching the news, and it was just a really regular Ukraine woman being interviewed on Skype. So it wasn't like, there's a big difference between the news picture and the Skype picture, as we all know, as we all find out. But and she was just sitting there with her child crying, and I thought, that could be me. That could be any of us. That could be any of us. And that really bugged me. And I know things like this have happened before. It was in Yugoslavia it happened before, wasn't it? But for some reason, that wasn't on my radar as much. And people said, oh, yeah, it's closer to home. But it's not that. I think I've changed. I don't know if I've grown up a bit or whatever, but I actually really do care about this. But again, what I'm going to do, I'm not virtue signaling. I'm just doing it because I want to do it. I've heard of an organisation that matches people for rooms for short stays. So I'm going to offer a room at my house for a month or maybe 2 months, something like that, to a mother and daughter, mother and son. Why not? And that feels better and more, this is a mental health aspect, more empowering to me because I'm doing what I can do, rather than going, oh my God, look at that awful mess. I can't do anything. Well, I can do this.
It's
You see what I
something.
mean?
It's something.
And that
It's
simple
a
point is
gesture.
But
It's
if
a gesture.
everyone did that, that would be enough, because that would be a million acts of doing good stuff all happening at once, and that can't not make a difference, right?
Okay. So in response to the original sort of question in terms of sort of how it makes us feel and how it's sort of, and the reaction that one has, for me, this everything boils down to one problem and one problem alone, and that is actually many of the problems that we face in this world can be attributed to this, whether it's the subject of bullying, whether it be insecurity, whether it be the news, whether it be worrying about everything, boils down to the constant bombardment of information that we have now through the world of online. So whether it be 24-hour news channels, don't think we had that really with Yugoslavia. Whether it be social media, certainly didn't have that with Yugoslavia. Whether we have problems when it comes to, as I say, insecurities, whether that be sort of maybe how other people are making us feel about potentially younger people being bullied, all of these things, the fact that there is just no way whatsoever of switching off from anything anymore. Even now, if you don't watch the news, what happens? Your smartphone pings to tell you a news alert. Okay, you can turn the news alerts off, but you know what I mean, okay? There's just no escape. And I think that is why people are much more aware of this now, and why it feels probably more scary than it did. Because if you compare it to, say, previous wars, and I'm talking about sort of proper full-on conflicts that sort of majorly affected the UK, all one had to rely on was maybe a daily newspaper. The rest of the time, you sort of try and carry on with your life, unless, of course, there were air raids and things going on. But sort of in between, in the run-up, the aftermath, all of that, you didn't really have to eat, sleep, and drink it 24/7. So I believe that all of this is contributing towards the world's. I think it was who was it, Russ? Who put it? Was it Ray who put it as saying it was like this mental?
It was Ray Gelato.
Contributing towards the nervous.
He said, I think one day we were having a cigar and a coffee, and he said, Russ, I think the world's having a collective nervous breakdown.
Yeah,
and that phrase from Ray Gelato has resonated with me for months, about a year now, I think.
Yeah, but I believe that is probably why it feels like that. I'm sure it does, because if you think of all of the trials and tribulations that one has to deal with in everyday life anyway, now add into the mix constant bombardment with bad news and news that makes us feel sad, scared, worried, whatever, along with, and let's not forget this, I don't think this is selfish, I just think this is fact, and it's all something to worry about or get concerned about, is the ever going up prices of living, the ever increasing cost of living, where everyone is now thinking to themselves, how the hell do I afford?
How am I going to make ends meet? And then there's two things
I've taken for granted.
Phil, I'm going to jump in very, very quickly with two things there. Number one, I think this is the first war that we can understand that there is a baddie and a goodie. I'm using childish terms. Everything else in the Middle East, who the hell understands? No one understands. You ask anybody, what's going on in the Middle East? Why did we go into Iran? What happened with Iraq? No one can explain it cohesively and articulately. Here, you've got a sovereign state, and another state says, "Oh, we're just going to invade you." We get it. We can understand that. We can wrap our simple minds around that. And the other thing, and Phil's touched on something really interesting, and this has come across all over my news feeds, and it really boiled my you-know-what. And it was this. All of us, and I put myself right at the head of that queue, are thinking, how am I going to make ends meet? Prices are going through the roof. Power prices are insane. Everything else is they're just taking the mickey and doubling stuff. Incomes are going down. And then you read, and we're supposed to feel good about this, that the son of an average footballer and a really terrible singer marries somebody I've never heard, and they spend $4 million on a wedding. And I'm supposed to, and I wrote today on Twitter, I said, absolutely no self-awareness whatsoever. This isn't a dynasty. This is a not bad football player and a shocking singer who got bloody lucky. It's not a dynasty. They just promote, and I thought $4 million on a wedding of two non-entities at a time when all of us are thinking, I really hope I can play the rent this month.
No, but you've actually really 100% hit a nail on the head there, because don't underestimate how simple, I say simple in inverted commas, simple things like putting that on the front pages and making that family headline news. Don't underestimate what that does to people, because those who are absolutely nowhere near that kind of income bracket would take one look at it and think, I don't know whether or not I should turn on the light switch today. Right?
Oh, no, or should I put on the heating? Or I've had this conversation with a very close friend who said the kids are putting on the heating and they want to say to the kids, put some more sweaters on. Because the heating bill is crazy. And then some non-entities throw a fort. Now, you might say, well, you're just jealous. If you had that money. No, I can put hand on heart. If I had that money, I wouldn't do it. That's just me. You can say, but Russ, it's none of your business. It's not. It's just so in your face.
No. But I don't know whether or not sort of it's jealousy, because jealousy would be having a go at the actual family themselves for spending their money to do whatever the hell they want with. That's up to them.
No,
where I am targeting my anger is actually the media who give them coverage. That's what annoys me, because when you've got the media that decide that it's a good idea to plaster them all over the front page saying, oh, look how wonderful the two 20-something-year-olds get £3 million spent on their dream wedding and get gifted a £500,000 Jaguar, right? What that says to the majority of people is, this is what success looks like. You're clearly failing. And that
beautifully put. Beautifully fulfilled. That's it. And there are
another interesting thing. I was discussing bullying with someone a while ago, and you're right, because of the modern day influences, it's so much worse. Because when I was growing up, you could leave the bully at the school gates. Now he's right there. He's right there, that close to you. He can't, you know. Yeah, you can block, of course, but do you know what I mean? And it all of this, all the things that have been raised here, do affect mental health. But I also know from my own mental health that if I focus on what I can do and what's right in my world, I will feel better. And when I feel better, I'm in a better position to help other people, because I cannot give from an empty cup. So you can call it smart selfishness, or putting myself first in a good way, or self-care, whatever you want. But there is a distinction between that and people who are just selfish and don't give a shit about anybody else.
Yeah,
absolutely, Neil. I
you have
completely
to care about others enough to want to put yourself first, if that doesn't sound paradoxical.
No, it doesn't.
What are you going to say, Tim?
It just reminded me. I don't want to get religious here, but there's a quote from the so-called good book where Jesus says, "Love your neighbor as yourself," and the hard part is as yourself. How do we love ourselves?
Well, he never said love your neighbor instead of yourself.
You what? Sorry,
he didn't say love your neighbor instead of yourself.
No, as yourself, because how I see myself determines how I see others. How I treat myself determines how I see others. So, as you said, there is a balance. There is a balance.
But that is, whether you're religious or not, that is quite a profound quote, because if you do live that way, then it will start with you, as all things do start with us, and then expand out to your relationships. And if everyone did that, that would filter out into a kind of world consciousness, and that was kind of the point of it, wasn't it?
Exactly. And also that brings me back to something that I think it was the Dalai Lama who said, and you were talking about earlier, how each one doing little things can contribute to a change. And as I think it was the Dalai Lama said, if you think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito.
Brilliant.
Oh my gosh, that's clever, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very, very good. I think, if you haven't heard the song "Do What You Can" by Bon Jovi, it was written over lockdown, and it sums up what we're talking about perfectly, as only Bon Jovi can, because they're brilliant.
Yeah, they are. And I just wanted to also pick on something that Phil was saying earlier about the media, and how the media influences us, and what they make important or not important, and how we get brainwashed by it, and our mood and everything goes along with that. Has anybody in the last couple of days over the weekend experienced fuel shortages?
No.
All over Sussex and Surrey, it's been really hard to get petrol and diesel, and not a blip anywhere. And yet, remember a few months ago, it was like panic buying and headline news. And now we've had one, and you don't see it anywhere, because somebody's decided that's not important. Rather, as you say, putting a headline about a £4 million wedding. It's just interesting.
Yeah, I notice when people don't consider it important that we don't have the fuel shortages. if the media stirs it all up. But it's true, because if it's not considered important, you assume, oh, there'll be enough. And there is. There's an argument that we're creating all of this and the media are fueling it up.
Yeah.
No pun intended. Let's end with this coming in from New York State. As a whole, the media pushes agendas that are profitable and agree with their policies or political slants. As Phil and I say nearly every day on this show, there is no news. There is only propaganda from both sides.
And can I just sort of say on that point as well, very quickly, that we need to sort of be very careful when we think of media. I think people often think of newspapers, they think of television. Don't forget, social media is absolutely included in that.
We will be back on Wednesday. Thank you, everybody. It's been an absolute joy. It really has. Bye, gang.
Brilliant. Lovely to meet you all.